Every morning, the countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning. You're with us here on another new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. It's a Tuesday morning. Yesterday was down on the Nifty, but broader markets did just fine. And I think that's a backdrop. There's not very much new earth-shaking information from global markets, but there is some stuff which we will address right here in the next 5 or 6 minutes or so. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Surabhi and Nigel. Guys, morning.
Hi, morning, folks. And, when it's tariffs, nothing is earth-shaking anymore, right? All those, what was that? The marginal diminishing utility sort of principle. Yeah. That's what it's become because the market just completely brushes aside all tariff talk. But that's kind of time we're in.
Well, indeed, there's uncertainty in the air, but, it seems that some of this tariff news will have to be bigger to make a bigger impact, I think. So, and I'm still smarting yesterday, after yesterday's loss. I thought India almost got there. We fought back well, but difficult times. Boys will fight back.
22 runs, just there, almost there.
Almost there.
Well, let's talk about, markets then, right? Maybe better luck here. Last 2 days, though, markets have been down. Friday, we saw a crack. Yesterday, the market was down in the Nifty. But as I said, how would you characterize yesterday's day? Pretty okay, because the index was down, but broader markets were okay. I'll get to that in just a bit. So we'll start it take it from the top. You've got S&P up, Nasdaq up, Russell up. So you got US equity markets, which are flashing green this morning. And part of the reason, actually, US markets started slightly lower. But then President Trump essentially made some comments signaling openness for further trade talks with the EU. This, of course, the weekend comments of 30% tariffs on EU, etc. Even then, the euro, the dollar, etc., had not reacted big, and market interpretation has been that, well, there'll be negotiation or it'll be pushed out. The August 1st deadline will itself be pushed out. And of course, President Trump has signaled openness, which went well with what markets did. Dollar index up a little bit. The yields, 2 basis point change, nothing really. Dollar above 98, the broader dollar that is. Brent oil prices have been bouncing around. 70, 68, 70, 68. So we're back at about 60, just under in that range once again. Now, the other, and many use this as a proxy for, animal spirits in stock markets, in financial markets, risk markets broadly. Crypto, Bitcoin, of course, is the poster child there. Hit $123,000. Focus, new high, basically. Focus on crypto week in the U.S. House of Representatives. And, what markets are watching, the crypto markets are watching, is U.S. lawmakers considering crucial crypto legislation. It's a complete 360-degree turn for many around the world because U.S. is now kind of trying to, under the Trump administration, mainstreaming crypto. Crypto is okay. Crypto is well. You must have crypto in your portfolio. That seems to be the message. And we'll see. We'll track this one. But there is, of course, specifically with crypto, positive news. But I think generally there's an indicator, broader market and the risk environment, which is quite upbeat. Now, Trump, of course, also, there was that news flow expected on Russia. Trump is threatening to impose secondary tariffs of 100% on Russia. He's also pledging additional U.S. military support for Ukraine. The word used was top-of-the-line military hardware potential sales to Ukraine. Now, this is, again, a complete 360-degree turn from, President Trump's stance on Russia. It was about stopping the war, but then it's not really worked out. So we'll see how this goes because, if the U.S. commits itself to supporting Ukraine, you're essentially looking at this 3-year war elongating a lot more. Now, I'll come to the market here straight up. So IT was the problem child, TCS, Infosys, etc. Actually, Wipro, HCL Tech, and we'll talk more about numbers which came after market hours. So the Nifty was down because of that, but the rest of the market actually was quite buoyant. Mid-cap index was up, small-cap index was up, Nifty Bank was absolutely flat. The Nifty it broke the 20-day on Friday. It yesterday broke the 40-day and then shows some bounce. It tested the 40-day exponential and then showed some bounce. We need a daily positive close for the Nifty. If the 40-day exponential, the market stays under it, then you're looking at 24,940 as the next level, which is nothing but the 61.8% retracement of the recent move. Resistance, two numbers. The 20 hourly stands at 25,170, and then the 40 hourly exponential average, which is 25,275. Very near-term levels here, but that's what we're working with. If you're trading, Bank Nifty, once again, like Friday, held the 20-day moving average, 56,732, and then ended flat. We need one more day of defense of the 20-day moving average. We'll see if that happens today or not. Downside level, if that goes, is for the Nifty Bank is 56,130 or so. GIFT Nifty will give you a quick sense of how we're likely to start before we go any further. Once again, absolutely flat this morning. Surabhi.
Like I was saying, nothing is moving the market. At least the tariff talk certainly isn't. Asian markets are also fairly mixed, but they're not flat entirely, because if you're looking at the Hong Kong market, for instance, it's up about 0.5%, but the mainland Chinese market is down 0.5%. Japan is completely flat. There's lots of news to digest. And by the way, there's some very interesting news that's just breaking right now on, on the screens. NVIDIA will be allowed to start its chip sales to China. Their chip sales that were blocked in April. The company's just issued a statement saying the US government is going to be granting it the licenses once again. So that's perhaps going to be playing out in the US market action later tonight when it comes back on stream. But anyway, out of China, there's plenty of data this morning, and the data is not too bad, frankly. The GDP number at 5.2% is ahead of estimates. The industrial output number for the month of June, 6.8%, again ahead of estimates. But the dark side or the underbelly is the retail sales number, consumption growth. That slowed down in the month of June. So retail sales at 4.8% in June versus 6.4% in May. And overall fixed asset investment growth has also been very muted this year for China. First half, it's up just 2.8%, which is lower than estimates. Apart from this NVIDIA news that's just hit the wires, the other thing that Wall Street is going to focus on is all the key bank earnings. And it's a very heavy 2 days. Today is Citigroup, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. Tomorrow it's Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs. And I think Bank of America is coming out tomorrow. So that's what the market focus is going to be on. Clearly, tariff headlines is basically not something that the market is looking at too much. But having said that, now, from an Indian perspective, this chatter about 100% secondary tariffs on countries that are buying anything from Russia, this could complicate the situation once again for India. Because remember, there's the additional 10% BRICS tariff, and now Mr. Trump is talking about 100% secondary tariffs if you're buying anything from Russia. And now all of this is happening against the backdrop of India still trying very hard to get that bilateral trade agreement, some shape or form of that trade agreement in place. In fact, the Commerce Ministry team is again in Washington. They'll continue these conversations for 4 more days. I think the talks wrap up on Thursday. So that continues to be a key watch point as well. Now, for us, the big macro cheer is inflation. The CPI number that came in yesterday continued to show more softness from the previous month. So for June, inflation, consumer inflation is at just 2.1%, slightly lower than estimates as well. And food inflation continues to fall further, which is the good news. In fact, there's disinflation when it came to food this time around, minus 1.06%. So the inflation picture has been looking good. On earnings, HCL Tech, well, it's a mixed bag. I think the market will really focus on this cut in the margin guidance and what the company is saying. The revenue is also down. It's fallen 0.8%, a little less than what the street was fearing. But the margin issue, the fact that the margin itself in this quarter is down 100 basis points, plus the cut in the guidance, that's going to be a key watch point. Speaking of more stocks, M&M will definitely be on the radar because Tesla is rolling into India. The launch event is slated right here in Mumbai, BKC, and we'll get you the latest. So watch for, some chatter if there's some, change in trading positions around Mahindra and Mahindra as well. Finally, to cap it off with the flows picture, we're very range bound. It's just time consolidation that continues in the market. And the flows, at least yesterday, were more or less offsetting each other. 1,800 crores of DII buying, 1,600 crores of FPI selling. So net, we had another flat session. Nigel, over to you.
Well, yesterday's trading session, a bit of an intraday dip on the Nifty got bought into. We ended with a cut, but not as deep as what it was at the low point of the day. However, there were a couple of positives because the small cap index, in fact, that put on close to 100%, telling you that there was select buying in the broader markets and telling you that the domestic money as well is still quite buoyant about the trajectory of the markets. Well, in the VIX continues to remain at very, very low levels. Given that we have fallen from around the 26,000 mark closer to 25,000, the VIX is not still suggesting any kind of fear in the system. And also another point is that the Nifty RSI that had moved to around 70, 72 odd, that's cooled down to around 47. That's the lowest that we have seen in the last 3 months or so. Let's get into what the FIs did in yesterday's trading session. Well, they added shorts. The short positions are the highest that we've seen all the way since March earlier this year. They wrote more calls than puts as well. So we have a fair bit of short positions in the system. But let's talk about the FI as well as the client positioning as of now. And the clients, they continue to add the long positions. So from around 40,000 contracts, now it's at around 80,000 contracts. So clearly they've added quite a bit of longs on that side. The FI shorts, well, that's reached the highest level since March 2025, and that's at around 1.2 lakh contracts. So we've got a fair bit of shorts in the system. In percentage terms, it's at around that 82% odd mark. So there are shorts in the system, sometimes a little dangerous, to wish for something. We wanted some shorts. Now you've got shorts loaded into the system. But I'll tell you what, if we can get any kind of positive news, these shorts will be forced to cover out. And as we have seen in the past, at around this 1,20,000 contracts odd, we sometimes see a bit of a short covering bounce that does play out. Moving to the options data, then, you had a fair bit of call writing in yesterday's trading session. And because of that, the PCR has come down to the lower end of the band. Remember, a few trading sessions ago, it was at around 1.2. Now it's come down to around 0.72 or thereabouts. And the 25,100 call, fair bit of open interest built up out there. 25,050 put as well. So both those two are very, very active. And that perfectly ties in with the key levels that we're looking at. So on the upside, the 20 DMA becomes a near-term resistance mark, which comes in at around the 25,272 odd, and support comes in a little south of the 25,000 mark. That's the near-term band, very, very crisp. A break of either which of these levels will give you another 200-300 points in that direction. So we'll keep an eye out on this. The Nifty Bank as well. Well, yesterday from the lows of the day, it did see some buying, and that was doing a relative outperformance. But the Nifty, that's going to be important because on a day-to-day basis, it's making lower highs and lower lows. For today's trading session, you'll want it first to make a higher high. Let's get past this 25,150 mark, and you'll want it to protect the lower level. So I'll keep an eye on that mark of 25,150. The Nifty Bank, as I said, did a relative outperformance yesterday. It's still protecting lower levels, the 20 as well as the 50 DMA. It'll have to lead the way because the tech space could be under some pressure. And finally, the word on Mahindra & Mahindra. Yes, Tesla is going to be coming to India. But history suggests that, in fact, any kind of bad news on Mahindra & Mahindra actually has turned out to be a buying opportunity. So let's see how that goes, and let's see whether or not Mahindra & Mahindra has, a joker up their sleeve as well. I'll keep an eye on that stock, particularly if there is some weakness.
All right, Nigel, thank you very much for that. So keep an eye, Mahindra & Mahindra in focus. Well,